Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and you're very welcome to the Great Agri-Food Debate. My name is Justin McCarthy, Editor and CEO of the Irish Farmers Journal. We're delighted to welcome you here to this year's debate, 2021 debate. Students from food and agriculture from third level colleges across Ireland and the UK are gathering virtually this year for the 6th annual Agri-Food Debate. It is a joint initiative between Dawn Meats and McDonald's, who are proud to be supporting the next generation of business leaders. Last year's winners, UCD, will defend their title against students from the University of Limerick, Northern Ireland's College of Agriculture, Food and Rural Enterprise, Caffrey, Dundalk Institute of Technology, Waterford Institute of Technology, and the University of Aberystwyth. The Twitter handle, if you want to engage in this, ladies and gentlemen, is #GreatAgriFoodDebate. The topic, one that is certainly controversial within the agricultural sector today, and the topic that we're going to debate is lab-grown meats will not replace traditional livestock farming systems. I'm delighted to introduce the teams. There are two teams taking part in this debate: Waterford Institute of Technology and Dundalk Institute of Technology. Our friends in Waterford Institute of Technology will be proposing the motion, and it will be defended and opposed by Dundalk Institute of Technology. I should point out the stance taken by the teams are the position they have been assigned through a random draw and do not necessarily reflect their own viewpoint. Before we meet the teams, ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to introduce you to our judging panel. First, we have Richard Clinton. Richard, if I could ask you to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Justin. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Great Agri-Food Debate, the 6th series, which has been virtually held this year. I'm Richard Clinton, the Group Commercial Director from Dawn Meats. I'm looking forward to a very engaging debate and discussion over the course of this morning. Thank you all.
Also putting our team members through the hoop is Isla Roebuck.
Good morning, all. I'm Isla Roebuck, and I'd like to wish all the participants well in the debate today. I've been involved in the meat industry since 1992, and I know that's a long time ago. In that time, I've done most jobs within the beef and lamb sector, one way or another, and I started working for Dawn Meats in 1993, just at the time that the business was expanding and growing in the UK and Ireland. This development has continued to date, and I'm proud to have been part of this, working with the rest of the team which have made this happen. I am looking forward to being a judge today, as the topic for debate is very interesting to me and Dawn Meats. Good luck, everybody.
One person and one judge that needs no introduction, and I'm sure she has a great understanding of the nerves that each of you are going through at the minute, is Una Sinnott. Una, you've gone from being one of the debaters to now being a judge.
Thanks, Justin. Hello, everybody. Yes, it's a great honour to be here as a judge this year on the Great Agri-Food Debating team, and it's a huge honour. So I graduated from UCD last year, and I'm now a PhD scholar with Teagasc, based in Johnstown Castle and UCD. And yeah, so I won the Great Agri-Food Debate 3 times with absolutely brilliant teammates in UCD, and won Best Speaker twice, and was the very proud captain last year when we brought home the cup to Belfield. So yes, I understand how nervous all the students must be, and I'm really, really excited. I have a huge passion for debating, so I can't wait to hear the debate now as it begins. Thank you.
So there you have it. Una has set the bar, a three in a row winner, and a team captain, and twice best debater. So no pressure, guys. Michael Murphy, can you give us your credentials? Have you made it 3 in a row?
No. Good morning, all. I'm Michael Murphy. I head the talent function in Board B and the HR function. I'm really passionate about bringing talent into the food and drink industry, so I'm on the watch out a bit today for some really great stars. So best of luck to all.
Oh my goodness, there's nearly a job offer for somebody already, and we haven't even started. David Kennedy, have you any jobs on offer?
Good morning, all. David Kennedy is my name. I look after the food and agri business in HSBC corporate banking. Delighted to be back again, judging on Great Agri-Food debate, and wish both teams well. And yes, equally, we're always looking for good talent.
And by no means least, Owen McGuinness.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Owen McGuinness. I'm a Senior Director in Corporate Banking in Bank of Ireland. I look after a number of customers across the food and agri space, in particular our most valued customer, Dawn Meats. Delighted to be here again for the 5th year in a row for the Great Agri-Food debate, and I wish all the contestants and teams the very best of luck. Okay, now that we've met our judges, let's go and meet the teams. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's get down to business. We have a few nervous panelists has joined our debate. Delighted to welcome Waterford Institute of Technology, who's proposing our motion today. Lab-grown meats will not replace traditional livestock farming. And our colleagues in Dundalk Institute of Technology, who are opposing the motion. Detailed rules have been shared with participants in advance of the debate, but some key points to note is that team captains will open and close the debate and introduce their teammates. Each student's speech will be a maximum of 5 minutes. Time will be monitored by a designated timekeeper whose decision is final. Interrupting a student while they are speaking is not allowed, and after each speaker, 2 points of information may be offered by the competing team, one of which must be accepted. Points of information are not allowed following the captain's closing remarks. So, let the debate begin. I would like to invite Michael Martin from Waterford Institute of Technology, proposing captain, make his opening statement. Michael.
Madam Chairperson, judges, members of the opposition, ladies and gentlemen, welcome along to this virtual Great Agri-Food debate. My name is Michael Martin, and I stand before you as the proud captain of the WIT debating team. It's a privilege and honour to passionately propose the motion that lab-grown meats will not replace traditional livestock farming systems. Before we progress any further into this debate, let me be clear. My team and I believe the word meat does not belong alongside the words lab-grown, because meat is defined by the Oxford Dictionary as the flesh of an animal. Lab-grown meat is defined as animal cells starting out as a biopsy, taken from an animal which is then grown into masses of cells. Replace is defined as to take the place of something. Traditional livestock farming systems is defined as the management and breeding of farm animals for the purpose of obtaining their milk. My uncle Aidan farms 70 sucklers on Inishmore Island. He makes a modest income and has put his 4 children through college. Can you tell me how you can replace my uncle Aidan's livelihood farming in a traditional way with this lab-based production system? As a farming nation, we are proud of what we've achieved in relation to producing sustainable Irish beef for consumers right across the globe. We have passion for agriculture, and our pledge to produce the most sustainable beef in the world is a true testament of who we are as people. Today, my team and I will take you on a journey of beef production on a global scale. Helena will speak to you today about the economics of farming systems. She will tell you the true facts about job losses and decline in nature habitats if we turned to lab-grown meats. Joe Marr hails from Tullamore in County Offaly, and believe me, he will leave no stone unturned when he speaks to you about the unsustainability of lab-grown meats. Joe will speak about how lab-grown meats require huge amounts of energy to be produced. He will speak about how these lab meats are pumped with additives and other nutrients before being packaged and put on shop shelves. Rob is a passionate beef farmer who will speak about how lab-grown meats are not appealing and how most consumers don't want them on their kitchen table. He will explain how the word meat does not belong alongside the words lab-grown. Throughout this debate, I want you to think about lab-grown meat. I really want you to think of how one might go about making a lab-grown meat. Think about how this craze even started. Think about how we are told to avoid processed foods, but yet here's a food that is so processed, it's able to taste, look, smell, and feel like meat, but yet it has come from a test tube in a lab. The opposition will tell you how lab-grown meats can help us reach climate change targets and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. They will tell you theories about the health benefits of lab meats, and they may even try convincing you of how one animal could provide enough cells to feed millions of people. But let's be honest, nobody believes that is in any way, shape, or form sustainable. I want you to listen to our arguments and hear the simple truths of this cultured lab product. No farmer from Ballinasloe to Baghdad will be replaced with a lab-grown meat. Traditional farming has an important role in agriculture and an important role in our ecosystem. We will not be blinded by this fake fad that is driven by millionaires who seek only one thing, and that is to make money by exploiting farmers. Farming families across the globe understand they are custodians of the land and they have a role to play. They will never be replaced by a lab jacket. They will never be replaced by a lab product. They are here for the long haul, and the tougher it gets, the stronger our farming families will become. I urge you to listen closely to my team and hear the passion in their voices as they strongly propose the motion that lab-grown meats will not replace traditional livestock farming systems. Thank you.
So just a quick point of information. You said that meat shouldn't have the word lab grown. Surely that's an advancement. And if advancement shouldn't be there, should cars not have the word electric in front of them then?
Yeah, no, the word meat, the same way I suppose milk was removed from oat milk. You can't get oat milk anymore. It's called barista example. And same with almond milk and the like. The word milk was removed from the name. And similar, I think this will happen in the future. The word meat will be removed from lab grown. Thank you.
I would now like to invite Carsten Morrow, the captain from the opposing team, Dundalk Institute of Technology.
Thank you very much, Justin. Good afternoon, chairperson, adjudicators, members of the public, opposing team, and also the excellent IT people behind the scenes making this possible today. My name is Carsten Morrow, and I am here today as the proud captain of the DKIT debating team, no matter what Justin may say. Me and my teammates are here today to passionately oppose the motion lab-grown meats will not replace traditional livestock farming systems. Now, let's not beat around the bush. I, like many of you, the opposition, and all my teammates come from family farms. And when I saw the topic of lab-grown meats today, the sci-fi-esque of a crazy scientist from Back to the Future pulling apart some animal came to mind. However, after research, 4 years of studying agricultural science, the ability to see beyond the stereotypical theme and actually see the benefits of lab-grown meats became very evident. Who are the opposition really kidding here? Agriculture have been at the forefront of technological and biological advancements for decades, and they want to say agriculture won't be able to both adapt and thrive when lab-grown meats are a real contender and being sold at the drive-thrus of McDonald's. And don't let the opposition kiss up to the likes of these companies for giving a premium for their beef, as there are reports of McDonald's having a foot in the door in lab-grown chicken already for their nuggets. Or maybe was that Burger King? So with that, before I start to get all passionate and political, let me introduce my amazing and award-winning team members. First up is my level-headed and kind of a celebrity in the dairy world teammate, our very own Harry Evans. With articles in both Agriland and the Farmer's Journal, Harry has a wealth of knowledge and will talk from a real farm perspective. He will be explaining the past, present and future impacts which come from traditional farming compared to these lab-grown meats, and show just how powerful the area of cell growing and cell culture is going to be. Moving on, a fellow veteran of mine and an award-winning show breeder of beef cattle, Catherine Smith. Catherine will take you into a world of how Ireland is not only an excellent farming country, but why we're nearly too good at it in terms of oversupply and driving down our own prices. I know, mad. Catherine will also explain what can be expected in the future from lab-grown meats and how exactly these different processes can occur, which Michael literally asked for in his opening speech. With such a strong background in beef farming, Catherine is by far the most educated person to actually have an opinion on this matter. And after seeing her in action last year against Waterford, well, I wish them the best of luck. Lastly, but not least, is Richard Gilson, our silver-tongued trick up our sleeve. Richard is not only known for his quick wit, but his passion for the world as a whole, based around feeding the earth. Richard will delve into exactly how lab-grown meats can be a game changer on how we feed the world, incorporating future stats and the fundamentals of mine, yours, and everyone's planet as a whole. Because as much as the opposition want to play that charity starts at home card, we need to be more open-minded and honestly have a bit more cop on about the subject of people going hungry. Now, there's a number of different roads we aim to oppose this motion, both scientifical and common sense, both of which may elude the opposition. However, we'll keep struggling through. The key to the aforementioned topic is the word traditional, which the opposition has so far left out. The Oxford Dictionary definition for tradition is being part of the belief, custom, or way of life for a particular group of people that have not changed for a long time. So I ask you, the public, judges, chairperson, what do you actually think of when you see a traditional farm? How about a feedlot, or maybe a zero grazing dairy farm? Because what these farms have evolved into have long left behind the traditional farms we think of today. And don't worry, Michael, because as you'll see, we agree that your Uncle Aidan is a traditional farmer, and we want him to be saved like those other 20% of beef farmers that are actually able to make a profit. Finally, I want everyone to bear this in mind. The title is a simple statement, whether or not lab-grown meats will overtake traditional farming systems. And of course, this is true. What isn't asked in the statement is how people will perceive it. The title is not Ireland's farming will be destroyed by lab-grown meats. The title is not farming families will be destroyed. It is a simple statement of whether or not a new, easier way to produce a protein will overtake an old style of production. And this is a simple answer, as generally a new, better, cheaper, and less environmentally destructive way of production will always be chosen. And you don't need to study science for 4 years to know that. Thank you.
Okay, on the basis that there doesn't appear to be any points of information being raised by Waterford Institute of Technology, we will now
I have a point there, Justin, just win. Point of information.
Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, just there. I think just for you, Carson, there, I think you're kind of avoiding the motion that's at hand here. How do you plan on replacing like Uncle Aidan, or what's his role to replace him with this lab-grown meat? Because the motion is replace traditional farming with lab-grown meat. So what is his role then if you're going to replace him with these lab-grown meats? Because he doesn't have an agricultural science degree like yourself there. He won't be able to work in these fancy labs. So what is his role?
Your point will be addressed very soon, Michael.
Look forward to it. Thank you.
I'd now like to invite Harry Evans from the opposing team to the podium.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, adjudicators and members of the opposition. I am here today to secondly oppose the motion which states lab-grown meats will not replace traditional livestock farming systems. Who would have thought just a few years ago that we would be here today discussing the potential of lab burger? But there are some very shocking yet unsurprising reasons for this. Traditional livestock farming systems continue to destroy the environment and are leading us down an irreversible path. This is despite numerous efforts from governments both here in Ireland and across the world implementing regulations and schemes to prevent the destruction. According to the Environmental Protection Agency's Water Quality in Ireland report 2013 to 2018, the number of pristine waters in Ireland has reduced from 500 in the late 1980s to only 20 pristine water sites today. It is not yet known what impact that incorrect chemical and organic fertilizer use will have on waterways into the future. Nutrients not taken up by plant roots eventually reach groundwater and then make their way to the water. This is an environmental issue that could take many years to start reversing if that change even happens at all. However, eutrophication is only one of several issues causing the degradation of the environment due to agriculture. Others include deforestation, rising livestock numbers, and intensification of traditional livestock farming systems beyond controllable levels. Carbon emissions are on the rise, and a takeover of lab-grown meat can help to slow this trend. A staggering 41% of greenhouse gases are coming directly from beef farming alone, which is almost half of the agricultural sector's total greenhouse gas emissions output. This is globally, this is not just in Ireland. And this is also according to the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. The impact traditional beef production has in the environment significantly dwarfs that of other foods. Beef, for example, accounts for an average of 295 kgs of CO2 per kg of protein. This impact, coupled with a massive loss of natural habitat for other species of wildlife, is surely a reason to drive the production and avail of the opportunity that lab-grown meat is going to offer in the future. Frontiers in Sustainable Food Systems, an Oxford University study, which was published in 2019, suggests that in the short term, lab-grown meat may be better than traditional meat. However, in the long term, it is said that traditional meat will be better for the environment, as lab-grown meat will require more fossil fuels to produce it. I'm sure the opposing team will be glad to hear this, and I'm aware they have already mentioned it in their speech, as this is possibly one of the very few substantial arguments they will offer today. But unfortunately for the opposition, the study states that future advances in cleaner energy technologies will assist lab-grown meat in achieving a very environmentally friendly and lower carbon footprint from production. These technologies may include wind and solar energy, which is rapidly becoming popular among a range of industries and food processors. A recent study carried out by the University of Bath looked at how much consumers would accept this cultured meat and for what reasons. It became clear from the study that consumers mostly highlighted the animal and environmental related benefits of cultured meat, and the study suggests that there is a large potential for this alternative protein in many countries across the world. The opposition may question what will happen to the small and medium family farms. I am from one of these farms, with a dairy herd and a dairy calf to beef system. I can see how an intense farming system can wreck the environment. Luckily, on my farm, we are conscious of protecting what matters, the environment. Unfortunately, many farmers are not. However, I have explored many alternatives for family farms, including my own. The solutions are endless. Diversification into forestry, growing feedstocks for biofuels, and agritourism are just some of the options. Reduced herd sizes and less intensive public perception of livestock farming would open the opportunity for paid for their produce, and our traditional family farms will be stronger than ever before. The reduction of traditional livestock systems and an increase in consumption of lab-grown meat has the potential to improve biodiversity and waterways, reduce instances of antimicrobial resistance, which Catherine may speak about, and allow land to be used to increase arable production. Doesn't this sound like the solution for these reasons alone? From these points, along with the statements from my colleagues, it is clear and obvious that the negative impacts traditional livestock farming systems have on the environment far outweigh the positives. Yes, lab-grown meat is not the whole solution, but its role in future meat consumption is something we must embrace, develop, and accept as a society, because it is inevitable that it will grow and eventually overtake traditional livestock systems. We must be open to change, a change to save the future of the environment in which we live. My team and I are fully convinced that lab-grown meats will be that change for the better. Thank you for listening.
Just a point of information there, Harry.
Yeah.
You do say that your cultured meat will be better, but from a human health side of things, will it be though? According to a study, actually, eating processed foods will increase dementia by 44% in humans. So just what's your thoughts on that?
Firstly, I'd like to point out that this meat is coming from cultured meat cells. It isn't exactly processed. It's going to be pretty much the same as you actually have stated in your opening speech. You actually said the smell, taste, and looks will be the exact same. Richard will speak about the nutritional benefits of the product, but I can't believe you have the audacity to put a price on the environment and a price on malnutrition and world hunger.
I would now like to invite Helena Hennessy from the proposing team to our virtual podium.
Good morning, Chairperson, adjudicators, and members of the opposition. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Helena Hennessy, and I am here before you today to second the motion. Lab-grown meat will not replace traditional livestock farming systems. In many communities, our communities, it is the local farms and farmers who are the backbone of the local spirit and economy. If we were to make this proposed change from traditional livestock farming to lab-grown meat that the opposition are so in favour of, the future of these communities and the economy would change along with it. In Ireland, 10% of employment is directly connected to the agri-food sector. This includes vets, factory workers, butchers, and the all-important farmer. And almost double that is then indirectly connected in the form of co-ops such as Dawn Meats and Glambia, or as restaurant workers. In fact, there is no sector that can compete with the employment agri-food provides, and as a result, a level of unemployment never seen before would occur if traditional livestock farming systems were replaced. Your cow, for instance, produces milk, meat, pet food, leather, and chemicals from fat. Lab meat production cannot provide this. They cannot live up to the standard. The economic argument cannot be ignored. There is a higher economic value in return the traditional way. We can see from the likes of Aldi and Kerrygold's advertising that for generations, it has been real people with real passion that work tirelessly to produce a quality product they will personally stand by. Are farmers now going to be replaced by a nameless person solely wearing a white coat in a lab? Lab-grown meat will no doubt create new jobs, but only for a select few. It has been well documented by the Journal of Animal Science that these jobs will require an entirely different skill set to the job that will destroy. How many dedicated farmers would lose everything to lab-grown meat? According to the United Nations, there are 500 million family farms worldwide. That's 500 million families at risk of poverty. That's how many would lose everything were traditional livestock farming systems to be replaced. Just think now, these are families, not just businesses. Brothers, mothers, people who rely on each other. A family farm is, as the name suggests, a place where even the children are involved. But to replace traditional livestock systems would be to rob these children of the country upbringing, like the ones we all had. Getting to run around the back fields and climb on bales, while our parents would anxiously watch on, telling us to be careful, and we wouldn't listen. Well, we are here today and we should listen, to be careful before it is too late. Because this dramatic change will not happen in isolation. The damage will rip through the economy with effects felt in other sectors, from pharmaceuticals who produce the medicines that keep animals healthy, to causing real damage to the tourism industry. Tourism is the second biggest industry in Ireland, right after agri-food. It provides 6% of Ireland's GDP and is totally reliant on Ireland's green image. A green image that is a result of traditional farming systems. A green image that people from around the world flock to see. Now replace this image with one where permanent pastures have been replaced with intensive cropping systems, like you have suggested, Harry, and that cattle are replaced with factories. We would see vast areas of land being abandoned and left degrade, as there would be no use for them in lab meat. The issue of land abandonment seen in the West would spread to become a national problem, as even the most fertile, high-potential lands would deteriorate. The opposition have suggested the likes of forestry as an alternative use of these lands, but what would that look like? These trees would not be of financial benefit to the farmer, the same way traditional farming is, and the fast turnaround needed for profit would further reduce the quality of our green image, and this cannot be let happen. Thank you.
Have we any points of information from the other side?
Yes. Can I go ahead?
Go ahead.
Helena, by adding recombinant DNA, algae and yeast, these produce organic molecules which are used in the production of lab-grown meat. These molecules are then used to biofabricate familiar animal products, which you mentioned couldn't be done from lab-grown meat. These products are gelatin, casein, which is used in milk, and collagen, which is used for leather.
Thank you for your point, Catherine. This requires further production, and we don't know what's involved in producing these things. It's further damage the environment by further production and further use of power, electricity. And you only mentioned leather and milk. What about the pet food or the chemicals from fat? They would need further processing and further energy to be produced.
I would now like to invite Catherine Smith from the opposing team to join our virtual podium.
Good morning, all. Judges, members of the opposition, and audience. I, Catherine Smith, and my teammates are only privileged to be presenting to you today on behalf of DKIT and telling you that lab-grown meats will replace traditional farming systems, just like this virtual platform has replaced the face-to-face debate. As a young Irish beef farmer and sustainable agriculture student, I am sure that many of you, like me, are sickened from hearing phrases from disheartened beef farmers, such as this reported in the Teagasc National Farm Survey that 80% of suckler beef farms are operating at a loss from their farming activities. We could argue the reasons behind this until the whole audience here today receives their COVID-19 vaccine. The fact that our generous sponsors, McDonald's and Dawn Meats, have facilitated a debate with this title obviously shows that they are embracing change. The opposition today argued that traditional is, but Charles Darwin once said, "It is not the strongest of species that survives, nor the most intelligent, it is the one that is the most adapting to change." This change is already happening. The Department of Agriculture recently published their Ag Climatise Roadmap, which aims to reduce emissions and focus on alternative land use and renewable energy. I'm sure you're all aware that incentives will be incorporated into achieving these aims. Sure isn't paying us farmers the only way to talk to us. To take a look at our own island of Ireland, the CSO reported in 2017 that Ireland was 683% self-sufficient in beef production. Yes, we have a valued beef export market, and without a doubt, Bord Bia and their Origin Green programme are doing a tremendous job at advertising our sustainable green image within Ireland and abroad. But it is not evident that due to the unsustainable prices beef producers are receiving, that we are overproducing. Simple supply and demand theory appears to have gone out the window. Should we not be extensifying our farms, like the EU Farm to Fork strategy says, helping to reduce our fertiliser usage by 20% for 2030, achieving the aim of increasing organic farming area by 300,000 acres by 2030 and reducing antimicrobial resistance? This is where lab-grown meats have a significant role to play in replacing traditional methods of overproduction. If we can lower the supply of meat produced from traditional livestock farms, won't the price paid for this premium product increase, which will benefit the primary producer, Michael's Uncle Aidan, and allow him to focus on carbon sequestration and create extra habitats for biodiversity by implementing the REP scheme on Inishmore? We all know it is the consumer who is dictating methods of food production now more than ever. The consumer's desire to eat meat with a drive to ensure global food security, maintain a nutritious diet, and reduce the environmental burden of food production are all issues which needs to be addressed. Lab-grown meats are the solution to these consumer concerns. Cultured meat production is an emerging process to produce animal meat and lambs using tissue production. This novel approach to meat production involves in vitro culture of the animal's muscle tissues rather than rearing whole animals to obtain meat, making it an animal-free harvest produced in controlled conditions. What's more is, the daily life weight gain of a lab-grown stem cell is substantially higher than the 2.2 kilo per day that you'll find many pedigree bull breeders boasting about this time of year. These stem cells can produce over half a ton of meat within 14 days. It can surely be said that there will be no lab producers struggling to hit a 380 kilo carcass weight within the 30-month age limit. Meanwhile, the beef calf still weighs approximately 1/10 of its final live weight. This shows that the lab burger can solve the increasing global food demand. According to studies carried out by the EU, food safety is a concern for 65% of European consumers. Strict control over the manufacturing process would allow for products to be nutritionally fortified and contain less unhealthy fats in a sterile production environment. Ladies and gentlemen, don't be fooled by today's opposition that are failing to address the issue of meeting global food requirements while reducing greenhouse gases, improving water quality, and minimising food waste, all which are major issues for the future of the agricultural industry. It's time to embrace change and bite into the lab burger. Thank you.
Point of information. A recent study in Australia showed that 80% of consumers were not willing to try the lab-grown meats. How do we overcome the fear and get the consumer to adapt?
Well, I'm not even going to go back 30 or 40 years now. I'm going to go back 3 or 4 months. How many people did you know that weren't going to take the COVID-19 vaccine in 2020? Now it's 2021 and the majority of the population are going to receive the COVID-19 vaccine. So it's just a matter of change and people need to adapt to this.
Okay, as we hit the midway stage in our debate, I would now like to invite Joseph Maher from the opposing team to our virtual podium.
Ladies, gentlemen, and fellow guests, my name is Joseph Maher, and I warmly welcome you here today to outline to you that lab-grown fortified foods will not replace the traditional livestock farming systems we currently have in place. Lab-grown fortified foods has a large carbon footprint, is unnatural, and is a fad. First of all, could the opposition look at the motion here today, replace and not overtake? Why has this fortified food a large carbon footprint? Lab-grown fortified foods will be heavily dependent on energy, and when emitted is entirely made up of carbon dioxide. According to Teagasc, the agricultural sector is only responsible for 5% of CO2 emissions. Cows on our planet emit methane, which only lasts in the atmosphere for 12 years, whereas carbon dioxide persists and accumulates for hundreds of years. According to Marco Springman, a senior environmental researcher at University of Oxford, said that lab-based fortified foods doesn't solve anything from an environmental perspective. In fact, he stated that 1 kg of cultured meat will cause twice the level of CO2 compared with 1 kg of meat produced the traditional method. This alone, folks, tells us that labs will be worse for the climate than cows are. The opposing team may tell you that traditional methods are more resource intensive, and with that comes expense. However, my team and I say that this lab fortified food production method has much more environmental impact. Lab-based fortified foods will require permanent pastureland to be converted for intensive crop production, resulting in carbon loss from our permanent pasturelands. I have mentioned the word energy there in my speech. Haven't we just recently closed down factories like Bord and Mona because we as people are led to believe they are not sustainable? The opposing team here today are trying to tell us that fortified food factories are sustainable. Where do we rest our thoughts on that one? Oh, come on, opposition. Sure, even Eamon Ryan would see that one during one of his naps in the Dáil. Harry, you told us here today that this lab cultured product is more animal friendly than traditional livestock farming systems. However, let me tell you this, Harry. Lab fortified foods will need a constant supply of live cows, pigs, chickens, or other animals from which to take cells. But also, according to a Journal of Animal Science, the growth medium used to grow this lab-based product is blood from the fetus of a slaughtered pregnant cow. Now, if traditional livestock farming methods are to be replaced, this means the culling of thousands of animals. Your argument, opposition, has not been clearly thought through. I revert back to the word sustainability in my speech, and some happen to just think it means environmental when they hear the word sustainable. But no, it also means meeting one's needs. This is something, Katrina, you have forgot here today. The consumer has many different needs when it comes to meat, from the marble fat on a glorious ribeye, or to that tender fillet steak, or that juicy hamburger. We have to ask ourselves, can this lab fortified food product offer this level of diversification and meet the needs of the consumer? Highly unlikely opposition. Sure, folks, wouldn't even Nevin Maguire and Donald Skehan be soon out of business from cooking the same fortified food product? Carson, you talk about the conventional meat production method not meeting a growing population, which I actually take as quite rude. That statement is as ridiculous as saying Mayo will win Sam Maguire. Carson, we are currently feeding a population of 10 billion people, and we could manage to meet a growing population if we manage our food waste better. I bet you, Carson, have consumed some meat source to date. You should be a little more appreciative of that and its price. The farmer here, folks, is the custodian of the land and maintains our soils. If the land is lost, stewardship is lost. Therefore, will we lose what has been achieved through GLOS in the past, such as maintaining and improving our ecosystems, biodiversity, and habitats on farmlands? I revert back to Alina's point. What is that going to do to our green image, our farming community, and our tourism sector? Folks, we have a tradition here. Don't let the opposition bury it. Thank you.
I await any point of information.
Yeah, point of information here.
Go ahead.
Not once have we mentioned replacing livestock systems. We have not mentioned about replacing the cows, replacing the highly valuable beef stock and the genetic advances we've made to this level in the country today. I think your point you're trying to talk about is replacing it completely. We're not talking about that. I think you've completely missed what we have said. And if you had a bit more respect to listen, it might help your own argument too. Thank you.
Harry, you talk about respect, but actually you're talking about overtaking it. I think you actually forgot the point or the motion here today at stake is actually replace, but you're talking about overtaking it. So I think you should have a little bit more respect for on behalf of that and take the motion to hand here today.
I would now like to invite Richard Gilson from the opposing team to our virtual podium.
Good morning, ladies, gentlemen, judges and opposing team. My team and I are here today to oppose the motion that lab-grown meats will not replace traditional livestock systems. Today I speak on behalf of each member of my team, from farmer backgrounds, going against the grain of our beliefs, from a tender age. From when I started to walk, I was out on the farm looking after and caring for animals with so much compassion. But the brutal honesty is that lab-grown meats will be the way of the future. In this ever-changing world we live in, with advances in technology over the past decade, food development is no different, with new resources in place for advancing food products, tailoring specific characteristics in the cultured meat. By altering the profile of essential amino acids and fats, in addition to adding vitamins, minerals, and bioactive compounds that match or exceed the amount in natural meat. Therefore, lab-grown meats will be able to target specific dietary requirements, as there is so much more control with lab-based meats than animal meats. Targeting a larger audience as vegans can incorporate cultured meats in their diet. Cultured meats have a huge place to play at the present time, with a growing population currently at 1.7 billion. By 2050, worldwide meat consumption will increase by 73%, driven by population growth and increased meat consumption in developing countries, according to 2011 United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization figures. Aside from the major dietary benefits that we have mentioned above, lab-grown meats will have the potential to flip world hunger stats on their head, combating starvation at its source. Lab-grown meats are superior meats in the world of malnutrition and starvation. At the present, there is an estimated 690 million people across the globe that suffer from hunger and starvation every single day. With these figures on the rise, as we stand here today, 8.9% of people globally are starving, as they have no viable source of food or nutrition. Global hunger is driven by three main things: poverty, war, and natural disasters. With each of these three factors restricting resources for growing and rearing sustainable food products, lab-grown meats will step in and play its part by supplying the people with nutritious food that they all require. With the information already provided to you by my colleague Catherine, we already know the rapid rate of production for these lab-grown meats, the numerous benefits that they provide in developing countries, reducing nutritional deficiencies in populations such as these, to support physical and mental development of children. Therefore, it is only a question of when are these labs going to be established, because now you know why. I feel a point we're going to have to pick up on is the true reality about the grass-based systems and the actual portion of cattle finished on these grass-based systems. An example is the Keepack feedlot in County Meath, finishing 3,500 cattle annually in this system, along with other feedlots around the country on fully concentrated diets in the latter stages of finishing, throwing the image of Origin Green out the window. Let alone worldwide feeding patterns in other countries, Argentina, Brazil, America, and China going in the same direction, where animals never see grass nor freedom, with no consideration taken into account from a welfare point of view of the animals. So, Helena, are these not considered factories? As Catherine stated, the idea of eating animal-produced meat because it's naturally nutritious is nonsense, because this is not the case in many countries. In these feedlots in countries outside the EU, cattle are fed hormone promoters and are full of antibiotics. This is the main cause of antimicrobial resistance to all the for mass production. There I bring up the horse meat scandal in 2012, where the Food Standards Agency Ireland tested a range of frozen foods and DNA of equine animals showed up on the food products. Consumers weren't aware of any difference in the taste, so there's no point standing up here today and stating that there's a difference in taste or texture of lab-grown meats, juice meats. Thanks for listening.
Okay, have we any points of information?
Yeah, just a point of information there. Is it okay to go ahead?
Go ahead.
How can you say that your lab product will meet world hunger when it will cause not alone job losses in the farming community and the tourism sector, but all you have in return is a dearer product? Just what's your thoughts on that?
It's a dearer product, but there's no denying it's a dearer product. But going in the future forward, it's going to become cheaper because it's going to become more accessible. That's number one. And then it's world hunger we're trying to feed. It's a starving population. So by setting up these labs and establishing these labs in third world countries, we're going to be able to combat that problem.
The fact is, you can't put a price on world hunger or poverty either.
Okay, we've had our point of order. Thanks for that addition, Catherine. And I would like to invite our final speaker, Robert Caroon, who is proposing the motion to attend our virtual podium.
Chairperson, judges, members of the opposition, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Robert Caroon, and today, along with my teammates, we are here to show you that lab-produced meats are indeed just another fad. We as consumers latch onto fads regularly, whether it be fashion, pop culture, technology, and of course, fads in food. Every year there's a new it food, but the fad fades, and what was flavour of the week ultimately fades into obscurity. I'd like to address Richard's point that we can set up labs in third world countries. These labs require infrastructure such as electricity and water, infrastructure that's not just as readily available in third world countries. And he knows that I know this because he knows I've been to Zambia. And he also said that the price will go down. But that only happens when demand increases. But we know that the demand simply isn't there because people don't want in vitro meat. Now, folks, let me ask you, if we were to place 2 plates on a table in front and each had a burger on it, one burger made from the finest Irish beef available with any dressings and toppings you want, and along with it, a side of the nicest, most floury, chunky chips, homemade from Irish-grown spuds. And then, on the other plate, a burger made from in vitro meat, with a gluten-free bread bun, some lettuce and tomatoes, and a side of packaged processed chips imported from abroad. I would take an estimated guess that the majority of you would choose the homegrown beef and spuds over the packaged processed foods any day of the week. And let me be quite clear, ladies and gentlemen. Lab-grown meats are a fad that belong in a list of fads, like the Atkins diet, Alco-Pops, fidget spinners and loom bands. They certainly will not replace traditional livestock farming systems. Now let's talk about the consumer. Catherine said that the consumer dictates the methods in which we produce meats. And she also said in a point earlier on, recombinant DNA can help in the production of meats. But consumers want more and more food that is free from GM. The consumer of meat has been educated very effectively by organisations such as Bord Bia, who have done Trojan work to show us how beef is produced, and by excellent marketing campaigns by the likes of Tesco, Kerry Foods, etc. The consumer wants a product that is natural, healthy, and that is GM free, and that can be traced right back to its source and that tastes really good. The consumer is suspicious of anything that is artificial, that is processed, and where its source is not immediately recognised and understood. We as a consumer are generally quite happy to continue eating naturally produced homegrown meat. We know that red meat, when eaten in the correct portions, is part of a healthy, balanced diet that nutritionists are forever trying their best to get people to adhere to. So why go messing with natural food sources when we as a consumer both want and need them? It seems to me that the opposition are quite happy to force artificially produced alternatives down all our necks to satisfy their taste for new things. Much like the craze of milk alternatives a few years ago was being forced in front of us everywhere we went, and ultimately failed at converting us. Because I'm not saying milk alternatives don't have a place in the world, but I am passionately saying that they will not replace natural conventional milk. Much like lab-based meats most certainly will not replace conventional meats. And as a relief milker for several farms that here home in Meath, I know where and how milk is produced. And I'm quite willing to bring anyone with me and show them the methods their food is produced. Much like any beef, sheep, poultry and pork farmers are more than willing to show consumers the pride, time and effort and passion that they put into producing good quality, traceable food. Because food traceability and awareness is so important. And even more than that, it's the transparency within our food industry so that us as consumers can follow the production of our food. And to be honest, folks, I don't think lab-based meats produced in sealed, closed-off environments from the rest of the world is the answer to that. It is the link between people and their food, which astonishingly seems to be what the opposition are happy to enforce. We see in our local super value shops the farmers they place on packaging that supply meat products to their chain. I can't imagine Super Value being able to market their range of lab-produced meats with pictures of scientists in white lab coats standing in a sealed-away lab, where the consumer can't relate to. And similarly, the opposition have suggested that lab-grown meats can be diversified into different cuts. But think of the menus in restaurants. Are you really going to replace roast peppered East Cork beef on the menu in Ballymaloe House and beef cultivated in Dawn Laboratory Meat Company? Because we as the consumer can relate to livestock grazing green fields in our countryside. And that link is vital for not only marketing purposes, but also for us to know and feel a link with what we eat. We cannot call into a local laboratory to visit scientists growing meat in test tubes, but we can call into Tom up the road for a cup of tea and help him feed the cattle any day of the week. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've shown you all that natural foods that joining us in supporting the motion is no mistake. Cormila Moggy.
Okay, we now invite any points of information, please. Okay, have we a point of information from Aaron Duffy from Dundalk Institute?
Yeah, Robert, just on the your reference to the 2 plates there, just I think it's to take in the growing vegan and vegetarian population. I think it's unfair to leave those people out. I think that more people than you think would choose the cultured meat plate per se because it's a viable option for those vegetarians and vegans that is not meat. Thanks.
Second point of information.
There was a study done in America, and 2/3 of the people that they studied said that they would not try the meat, and 1/3 said that they were willing to try the meat. So, you know, we're not leaving out the vegans and other people that want to try this meat, but we're not saying, like, it's not, how would I say, we're not saying that they're going to continue eating that. They can try it. And we never said that we're leaving out vegans. The motion is that in vitro meat production will replace traditional farming systems. It won't. We're not replacing beef. We can cater for other people and their dietary needs, but we're not replacing traditional farming methods.
And I now invite Carson Morrow of Dundalk Institute of Technology to make his concluding remarks for the opposition.
Thank you again, Justin. Hello, everyone. Once again, before I start, I would like to congratulate and applaud everyone here today. Just like the last year, this debate has been nowhere near normal and it's been tough, but here we are still fighting and most importantly, still debating. The opposition have completely missed the point my team have made over and over again, obviously reckoning they had the easy side. If the opposition are so obsessed with it, the Oxford definition of replace is to assume the former role, position, function, or the substitute of something. This does not mean to completely destroy what was there before. We have shown there is room for both true traditional farms and lab-grown meats. Both Michael and Alina talked about the loss of jobs, loss of family farms, which my team have completely blown out of the water. We've explained how it can even be improved, in fact. And I won't even start with Joe's. But this seems to be the problem with agriculture. People just not listening or not wanting to listen. But I'll position. You are so worried about your job, your farm, your family. But what about the 690 million people around the world going hungry who don't have the choice of those two plates which Robert mentioned? They have used fear-mongering to depict an apocalyptic landscape of agriculture if lab-grown meat become the norm. And if the opposition want to bury their heads in the sand, hide from the truth and become cannon fodder, they can. But I'm not going to let my family farm become a lost soul stuck in the Stone Ages, stuck on Inishmore, fighting against the tide, and neither should you. Robert asked a question about how to get people on board with lab-grown foods, and Catherine gave an excellent answer. But one more point I want to add. The best way to get people on board is simple. You simply educate them, which the opposition so far have completely failed to do. What the opposition want is for nothing to change, no advancements to be made. But then what? Should we give up AI? Should we give vaccines and antibiotics to boot? Because every single item I'm after mentioning was at one stage an advancement just like the lab-grown meats. My advice to the opposition is may throw away your phones and pull out that horse and cart, because phones and cars were advancements at one stage too. I can honestly say how proud I am of my fellow team members. We could have gone down the same route as the opposition and used scare tactics or Stalin-like methods to scare you into informing, but we didn't. We have used facts, figures, and basic common sense to prove our argument. We're not saying farming is going to die a slow, painful death, but just like new cars replace the old ones, those old ones are still going around. Catherine, not Katrina, has said exactly why lab-grown meats are so important and how they can be produced, highlighting the point that people are aware of global hunger. 65% of people, to be exact, which is a huge proportion. Harry went through the advantages and possible benefits in the future if lab-grown meats can be given the investment and time they need, not to mention the environmental benefit they can have. And finally, Richard, who took you on a journey from his childhood to the present day, explaining that even though we're not fully sure what will happen, this needs to happen if we're going to thrive and adjust to the world we want, not the one we currently have, and make sure that Uncle Aidan can put many more of his kids through college. My team and I are here, listening, debating, and most importantly, pleading with you to oppose. The opposition have showed no understanding, and they are all bite and no bark, all talk and no substance. Replacement does not mean complete annihilation. There will always be a market for premium original products. Do not let the opposition stifle our growth, not just your growth, not just Ireland's growth, not the growth of those 690 million people going hungry. Because trust me, if the rest of the planet goes down, Ireland will too, no matter how many real beef McDonald's burgers we have, because then we won't be loving it. And remember this, no matter who is right today, if Ireland doesn't accept what is bound to happen, it will be like watching a toddler learning how to ride a bike without stabilizers, just like before with some of the previous topics. Thank you very much.
Okay, that brings us to our final speaker. I now invite Michael Martin from Waterford Institute of Technology to make his concluding remarks for the proposition.
Ladies and gentlemen, before the opposition get too carried away with trying to manipulate and change the motion, let me remind them of what we are debating here today. Lab-grown meats will not replace traditional livestock farming systems. We have heard a lot from the opposition. I'm beginning to wonder if Donald Trump wrote their speeches because they are similar to some of his best. Harry Evans has alleged lab-grown meats can help us achieve and meet climate change targets. But as Joe said, 1 kilogram of lab-grown meat will produce twice as much carbon dioxide than 1 kilogram of traditional beef. That makes lab-grown meats environmentally unsustainable and unfit for production. Let me be clear. Vegan and vegetarians class lab meat as meat. So this is not an alternative for them. Richard spoke about how we can have an improved ecosystem with lab-grown meats. But I think here the opposition haven't done their homework, because without a keystone species like cattle, our ecosystem as we know it will begin to fall apart. Dr. Olaf Schmidt showed in 2018 that 4 times more earthworms were present under dung packs, which also improved soil quality. What happens to our below ground biodiversity without raising livestock? Carson believes if we reduce cattle numbers, we can sow more trees and this may act as a carbon sink. But the opposition need to know this. And I advise them to write this down because it's important. Sitka spruce accounts for 51.1% of all forest area. This tree acidifies the soil, it impairs fertility, kills earthworms, and reduces soil biodiversity. Do the opposition want us to destroy our soils by filling it with trees? That's not all though. These forests have massive sediment loss every year and runoff is exacerbated by forest roads and exposed soils. This sediment ends up in our waterways and pollutes our rivers and watercourses. The bottom line is this. Removing livestock and sowing trees is not a silver bullet, it's simply just a throwaway remark made by the opposition. Richard has persuaded himself to think that lab-grown meats will be able to solve world hunger. I must admit, I laughed when I heard him say it. If you believe a lab-grown meat will replace traditional farming and help solve world hunger, answer me this. On the back of your troper box, this length is a woman called Ajak. She lives in South Sudan. Ajak, along with her neighbours, share cows and 8 cattle. Ajak minds and cares for her cattle, and this lent her friends and neighbours living in rural South Sudan will kill one of those animals for their meat. The community will come together and have food for weeks. Ajak does not live anywhere near a town. Can the opposition tell me how on earth could their lab-based meats replace Ajak's traditional livestock farming? I do not believe SuperValue will deliver to South Sudan, and I don't think it's viable for Ajak to walk 58 miles to the nearest town for this lab-grown meat. My point is clear. Lab-grown meats may have a place in our shops, but will never replace traditional farming systems. Just the same way, IVF has a place in our world, but it simply won't replace the traditional bedroom methods. As this great agri-food debate draws to a close for 2021, I want you to remember that traditional farming in Ireland and around the globe is stronger than ever before. Farming is forever improving. Standards are being met and the bar is being risen year on year. Consumers drive these high standards and farmers meet them. A lab-grown meat may have a place in a corner of a shop shelf in Dundalk, but a lab-grown meat will never replace traditional farming systems. Farmers have a role to play, and we pledge to see that roll out. Despite the rhetoric from the opposition, I urge you to uphold this motion that lab-grown meats will not replace traditional livestock farming systems. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael, for those concluding remarks. And ladies and gentlemen, that brings the formal debating of the motion. Lab-grown meats will not replace traditional livestock farming systems. On your behalf, I would like to thank the team from Dundalk Institute of Technology and Waterford Institute of Technology for clearly putting huge amounts of effort into preparing themselves for what was a very exciting, interesting, and passionate debate. I'd also like to thank each of the team members for showing respect to their colleagues in terms of proper and informed engagement. We'll now give our judges a final few minutes to deliberate on their final scoring.